Hey guys, it's Camilla the Murphy guys. I'm reviewing. This is a movie that I really was not looking forward to at all, but you guys know I try to see everything that I possibly can, and that of course is the very necessary remake of Death Wish. And what Death Wish is essentially about is we center on Bruce Willis's character, and basically he is this doctor, and he has a good life and everything, and one day his family is planning this party for him, and suddenly his wife and daughter are attacked by these two gang members, and his wife unfortunately ends up killed, while his daughter is now comatose throughout basically the majority of this movie, and for some reason this gives Willis he tries to go to the police, they don't seem to be doing anything, so he gets the idea to become a vigilante to avenge his wife's death and hopefully track down her killers, and that's really all I'm gonna say. So, Death Wish, I really was not looking forward to this at all, honestly. This just looked like the definition of a very unnecessary remake. It looked like the complete wrong direction to take this movie. Bruce Willis is just an actor that I don't really respect that much anymore. He didn't really seem like he was game for it, and the fact that it kept getting pushed back, that really did not make me have that much faith, and I already didn't have that much faith in it to begin with, but that made my, that increased my dreading of this movie even more so than it already was, and it sucks. Death Wish is exactly what I expected to be. This movie is fucking awful. I hated basically almost everything about it, and we're just getting into it now, starting off with the cast. Now, I will say the acting in this movie isn't all terrible. I do actually think there are some decent performances in here. I'm not talking about Bruce Willis, though, because he really is not good in this movie, and I can't really blame him. It has been said before that Willis is pretty much sick and tired of taking the same roles. He has recognized that he basically plays the same role in everything, and, basically the reason for this is because he's not really getting offered anything else, so this is really, he just takes what he can get, and you can't really blame him for that. That being said, though, he's really not good in this movie. Most of this movie, he's like sleepwalking through the performance. He seems so bored and tired, and it just never really seems like he had much energy at all here. And his character already isn't good to begin with. Willis doesn't add anything to him. There's no layers, nothing. And he never really feels like he suffered through much of a loss. He really doesn't. Willis, in general, it's unfortunate that he keeps getting these roles. I'm really hoping that he does a film that hopefully does put him back on top, but this definitely is not the one. He really is not good in here at all, and it's just a typical Bruce Willis performance. It's exactly what you expected him to be, unfortunately. And then Vincent D'Onofrio in this movie, look, he's good here, but this is easily one of the weirdest roles from in a while. His entire character, he's just here like, is everything okay? Is he, what's going on, Paul? Is everything okay here? Like, he constantly is so kept in the dark about everything that's going on. He's Paul's brother in the movie. He's like really concerned. He's either really concerned or really suspicious. That's really all he does in this movie. Like, that's it. That's all there is to his character. And I guess D'Onofrio does a good job, but talk about a waste of an actor. Like, he's completely wasted in this movie. It's unfortunate because he is such a talented actor, but they completely wasted him. I don't know if they wasted him as much as they did in Chips, but here he has almost nothing to do, and again, it's one of the worst. It's the complete, again, they didn't utilize him well at all, and I was really disappointed by his role for sure. I will say the two performances I actually did like here were Dean Norris and Kimberly Elise. I thought these two actually did work well together as the detectives in the movie. They did do a good job. Elisabeth Shue, she's okay for the 20 minutes that she's in here. She gets killed very quickly. His daughter, on the other hand, no, she is not good. But again, I can't really blame her. She's not a professional actress. Camilla, Morrone, she's nice to look at. I'll say that. She definitely is attractive for sure, but that's about it. I'm not going to give an actor extra points because she's attractive. She's just, like I said, nice to look at. Her acting, on the other hand, is really lacking, and there's a lot of scenes where she's supposed to have a lot of emotion, and it just does not work at all. any of the criminals that we see in this movie, they're all awful. They're honestly laughably bad, and that's really all I have to say when it comes to the acting. Besides Dean Norris and Kimberly, Elise, all the other actors are either completely wasted or they're really out of their element, and I really don't think that the acting's really not that great here. But now let's get to what I really want to talk about, which is the directing and the writing, because holy shit, we have a lot to talk about. Right off the bat, the biggest problem with this movie, I think, is the directing. Eli Roth was the exact wrong choice for this movie. I don't think they could have found a worse director to tell this story than Eli Roth. I mean, this story already is very underwritten. Eli Roth definitely does not help it, because for some reason he seems to glorify a lot of Paul's actions in this movie. He frequently plays it for comedy, and none of it works. I mean, almost all of the comedy falls flat here. Nothing's funny. It feels so out of place, but the problem is, if the film would have just been a movie that knows it's stupid, that would have been that would have been different. You know, if the movie just would have been one of those things where they know it's stupid and they know it's dumb, I wouldn't be as upset. The problem is, there is actually a part of this movie that does actually try to take itself seriously, and it doesn't work at all. It tries to shove in all of these, you know, different social commentaries. We'll get to that with the screenplay, but it does not work here at all. Eli Roth does not know how to direct this movie. It's the exact definition of Eli Roth movie. I haven't seen Eli Roth movie prior to this, but if this is how his movies usually are, I can see why he is heavily panned as a director and why people were so, you know, were just so upset that he was directing this movie. I can totally understand that here. I totally get people's frustration when it comes to that. The writing is a different story, though, because Joe Carnahan's writing is a complete and utter mess. This movie does not know what it wants to be at all. Right off the bat, the characters in this movie are not really characters. Bruce Willis's character, for example, of Paul Kersey, this is easily one of the most one-note, underwritten main characters I've seen in quite a while. What do we know about Paul in this movie? Well, we know he's a doctor. We know he has a family, you know, a very loving wife, a daughter who's going off to college, and for some reason we know that he wants to be a vigilante. That's it. That's all there is to his character. He goes through nothing. He starts the movie, he ends up in the exact same place that he started it, and he honestly is really unlikable, especially when it comes to the loss that he's dealing with. Because of the fact that, like I said, Willis is so tired in this role, you never really feel like Paul is going through that much. You never really feel like he lost much of anything here, and it just feels so underwritten, and all of the emotion you should feel here, again, Willis isn't game for it, so it doesn't work, but it does not help. The character already is so underwritten to begin with. It's so by the numbers. There really is nothing to him. There is one scene where he actually does get upset about his wife's death, one, and it just makes him look like a giant hypocrite. His whole reasoning behind him wanting to become a vigilante is because, oh, the cops aren't doing enough. There's no consequence. Yet, he goes around in this movie killing many people as a vigilante, brutally murdering them, some of them even innocent civilians, yet he gets off completely scot-free. Nothing seems to happen to him. There's no consequence to him either, so he is a giant hypocrite in that regard, because there really doesn't seem to be any point in this movie where he actually feels bad. He feels completely unscathed by all of this murder and all this stuff he's doing. There's no point in the movie where it seems like he is aware that what he's doing is completely wrong and very inhumane. There's no, really, it doesn't seem to have any remorse in whatsoever, and like I said, that really did piss me off here. I really did feel that his character was very underwritten, and I really wanted more to him. I think they really could have developed him more. I haven't seen the original Death Wish, but from my understanding, that character is way more developed and there is a legit reason for him being a vigilante. And other than his wife being murdered, there really is no good reason for why he should become a vigilante. And like I said, the movie does somewhat try to glorify it, and it really doesn't work at all. The cops in this movie, like I said, when we cut to Frank, and when we cut to Detective Detective Raines and Detective Jackson, the movie is a little bit better, but these cops also are extremely underwritten. All we know about Detective Raines is that he's a cop and he likes pizza. That's really it. He's supposed to have some sort of relationship with Paul, yet even though these two are supposed to be really good friends, there's no point in the movie where he actually suspects that Paul might be the vigilante. These cops are so incompetent. They don't seem to care about the fact that there is this vigilante. I mean, sure, they're trying to track him down, but it just seems so secondary. It doesn't seem like they care about the fact that his wife was murdered. They're not really going after all of these criminals. It does not feel realistic in that way, and it really doesn't work at all. And also, people have touched upon this, and I'm going to agree. There really is not much of a story here. Like I said, there isn't really an arc that Paul goes through, and also, the villains in this movie aren't really villains. There really isn't a, one specific antagonist. We know in the beginning of the movie who, kidnapped his family, and we are well aware of that, but it never really feels like there is actually much of a threat at play. It doesn't really feel like anyone is coming after Paul. It just feels like it's here because it needs to be here, and we need to build momentum now. It just does not feel that prominent, and again, I feel like that also was very much lacking in this movie and really did take me out of it quite a lot. The movie is very boring in that regard. I was very bored throughout the majority of this movie. Now, I will say the cinematography does help, but that's not saying cinematography is good. The cinematography is awful here. I mean, this movie is so excessively violent and ridiculous, and it has so much terrible CGI that it almost becomes funny. Really, it almost does. I mean, there's literally a scene where Paul, tortures this one criminal by pouring lighter fluid into this wound. He makes like a huge incision into his leg. He pours not lighter fluid, but he pours like some fluid into it, and then he proceeds to take this chain, and this car literally falls on top of him, and just the way that all went was honestly hilarious, and the parts that are hilarious in this movie aren't supposed to be funny. The scene where his wife and daughter are kidnapped felt like something out of a Home Alone movie. That is how incompetent I thought these, antagonists really were for me. It was ridiculous. It was dumb. It was fun to watch, and that is one of the reasons why I didn't hate this movie as much as I could have, but I still really did hate it, and I just felt that there was so much lacking there. But again, if the movie was just trying to be a film that's just stupid fun, that's different, but it's not. It actually does try to add some sort of smart social commentary in there, and it doesn't work at all. The way it does that is that for some reason throughout the movie we're constantly cutting back to these radio interviews and all these different the various YouTube videos and memes and things like that, and it just feels like padding. It doesn't feel like the movie's trying to say anything intelligent. To me, it seemed like they were trying to add some sort of social commentary about how corrupted Chicago is and how there are always these criminals running through the city and how someone needs to try to stop them. But again, the movie never really dives that deep into it. They do bring up some things like how Paul is, roaming around killing these innocent civilians. I mean, we find out that even this mother was harmed, but again, they never really dive that deep into it. I'm going to reiterate, there really is no consequence to Paul's actions. He kills these people and he's completely fine. He gets off completely scot-free. So there really is no reason to care about him. There really is nothing to latch onto in this movie, and in general, it just feels like a giant waste of time. It really does. Also, the music choices are completely out of place. Remember in that one trailer how they played AC/DC music? Yeah, that's actually the majority of the music in here. It's so bizarre, honestly. You have scenes of him killing these people and they're playing this rock music, and it just feels so out of place. I don't know why they were treating this as something funny, and doing this as, oh, Paul's doing something right. I mean, becoming a vigilante, sure, I can understand why he wants to do it, but the movie never really portrays this as a bad thing. They always portray it as, oh, Paul is on the right side of things and that he's this superhero, and it just does not feel real in that way at all. Yet the movie is adding these elements to it that they're trying to make it feel real. They're trying to make it feel realistic, and it is anything but that. The editing is all over the place. I thought the editing was really bad here, especially, like I said, when we cut to those radio interviews. It does not work at all. I don't really know what they were trying to do there. To me, it seemed like a last-minute decision. Like, they just kind of shoved that in there because there wasn't anything smart the movie was trying to say, and they knew that the original had a lot of smart social commentary, and this one didn't, so they just shoved it in there. It just did not feel like something that was with them from the get-go. And again, this movie has gone through so many different rewrites and so many different actors that I would not be surprised if that was something from like one of the drafts of the script that they didn't use, and they thought, oh, maybe audiences will like this, we're just going to shove this in here, and it just did not work at all. Guys, Death Wish is terrible. I hated almost everything about this movie. It's got a couple good performances in there. It has some really hilariously terrible action scenes that I honestly really did enjoy. At the same time, I was cringing, but I was also laughing, but it wasn't in an enjoyable context. It's not something where, you know, you are enjoying it because it's so bad, it's good. There are points in this movie where it does feel like that, but like I said, there are also points where they're trying to say something smart. There's no antagonists. There really aren't any really compelling characters or anything like that. It's the perfect example of an unnecessary remake that we did not need. It really makes me feel bad that Willis continues to subject himself to these roles, and in general, I really hated this movie. It's one of the worst things I've seen all year, and I'm definitely going to give Death Wish overall a D+. So over, guys, in my review of Death Wish, let me know what you guys thought of this movie overall, left your thoughts in it. Like I said, if you haven't seen this movie, don't watch it. It really is not worth your time at all. I don't think it's gonna do that well, honestly, and really, this was horrible timing for this movie to come out. I mean, it's a movie that has so much gun violence, and especially when we're living in a time where, you know, that is such a prominent thing because of some real-life parallels. They really could have waited to delay this movie, at least, like, a couple months. They really could have waited to do that. You know, no one really wants to see a movie about this right now, and I don't think it's going to do well, and it shouldn't because it's not a good movie at all. Like I said, you can make that argument, but there also is the argument that this movie really should have never come out. I personally agree with that, but that's in my review. Hope you guys will see you guys in my next video, and we'll see you guys for that. Okay, bye.